Hey friends, Sam Haymart for Test Driven TV. Today I'm test driving the redesigned 2015 Toyota Camry. This is the best-selling car in America. It has been for the better part of a dozen years, and to be honest with you folks, I've never really quite understood why that is. After all, it doesn't really stand out in any major category. It's not the fastest car, certainly not the best handling car. It doesn't have the most space, the most fuel economy, the most performance of anything that it competes with, yet it still manages to show up in most driveways across the United States. So today, we're going to dive deep into this thing, try to figure out why that is.
The 2015 Toyota Camry received what's called a reskin for this year, meaning that its underlying chassis and powertrains remain largely unchanged, getting a freshly draped envelope of sheet metal and trim for a new look. It's rounder than before, with a bit more of a sculpted presentation. This is most prominent up front, where a new grille design and more aggressive fascia give a bolder overall character. Deep angular lines give it a defined facial form. Our XLE trim grade had handsome 17-inch wheels with a satin chrome appearance, a finish called super chrome paint. At the rear, new taillights, generous chrome trims, and a style that's much more contemporary than before. Along the sides, the window trims were given some creative flourish to suggest the appearance of a rounder and sleeker greenhouse, but alas, there's a bit of a fake-out going on here that looks good from afar, but up close seems afterthought. Its interior received a number of upgraded trim in all directions to add a softer touch and a more premium feel. Our XLE came with power adjustable and heated front seats with leather trim throughout, including the shift knob and steering wheel. Lovable features include keyless entry with push-button start, a backup camera, and Toyota's easy-to-use and rarely frustrating Entune touchscreen infotainment system. Ours was optioned up with premium audio and navigation too. The latter has AM, FM, CD, HD radio, satellite radio, and MP3 capability, plus the ability to connect to virtually anything via Bluetooth. USB and auxiliary ports are included as well. The sound is decent and its features easy to access always. Our XLE was optioned up with several standalone options like a power sunroof at $915, which is nice to have separate of a package. There were illuminated door sills too, which seem a bit pricey at $299, as well as a blind spot monitor and remote start, also dear at $500 each.
Well, the upgrades to the interior mostly had to do with trims and touch points. The look is pretty much the same as it was for the 2014 model year. They did redesign the center stack just a little bit, and there's also a QI wireless cell phone charger that's available as an option down there inside the center cubby. Now, really the only thing I'd have to say about the interior here is that I have noticed a few squeaks and rattles while driving around. Rear seat space in this class, almost any car you buy, has gotten to be pretty darn generous today. Gone are the days of cramped mid-size sedans when it comes to sitting back here. Plenty of legroom, lots of headroom, and there's even vents back here for the HVAC.
Trunk space is cavernous in general, let alone for its class, with 15.4 cubic feet and a sizable opening to get your things through. The rear seats fold in a 60-40 split, and notable is that there's a rigid plastic decking on the back of them to protect from cargo wear. Under the hood of our Camry is the standard 2.5-liter four-cylinder engine, which has 178 horsepower and comes exclusively with a 6-speed automatic transmission. A more powerful 3.5-liter V6 engine is available with 268 horsepower, one of the few V6 engines left in its class. The four-cylinder engine is all about fuel economy here, with an EPA-rated 25 mpg city, 35 mpg highway, and 28 mpg combined. In our week of testing with the Camry, it achieved 30 mpg combined city and highway.
Now, this four-cylinder engine isn't going to make anyone think, you know, I'm going to go to the drag strip tonight and have a little bit of fun. But the good thing is it does offer a little bit more than adequate power for most buyers who are going to buy this car with this engine. If you need to pass on a highway, if you need to get out of somebody's way in traffic, it does have what it's going to take for that. And the good news is this transmission here actually does its job in delivering those downshifts pretty quickly and crisply when you do ask for the power.
Underpinning the Camry are the same bones and joints that have carried it for many years, a McPherson strut front suspension and link-type rear suspension. The chassis was, however, given additional stiffness enhancements and sound deadening for 2015.
You know, cruising down the highway here at highway speeds, I can't help but to think that's exactly what this car is for, cruising. I mean that in a good way, but that gets me to the handling. It's really, we couldn't be more middle of the road, to be honest with you. It's hard to really come up with superlatives and a lot of interesting things to say about it. I mean, it turns, it speeds up and it slows down. It does have a quiet ride. It's reasonably well isolated, but there's no wow. And maybe that's the way it was meant to be.
When it comes to safety, the 2015 Toyota Camry does stand out at the top of its class with an IIHS Top Safety Pick honor. It achieved good results in their full battery of crash testing, including the small overlap test. Additionally, it's available with advanced front crash protection features, which get it that extra plus status.
As I'm rolling towards the end of our test drive here, I want to share just a little quick personal story that I think helps answer some of my own questions as to why this car sells so well. And I was in a contest where I came very close to actually winning a 2015 Toyota Camry, and I was down to 1 in 10, a finalist. And in the days leading up to the final drawing, I was going through all these machinations about what I would buy once I won the Camry. I would sell the Camry because I certainly didn't want one. Then I would buy something else new, maybe used, but I was going through this process of trying to figure out what I would spend the money on. And this notion kept coming back to me, thinking the smartest thing I could do is keep the Camry. After all, I'm not really a wealthy guy. I'm self-employed. Times are uncertain. The Camry, keeping it, would have been the smartest thing I could do had I won one, because God knows the thing isn't going to break. It's highly fuel efficient, doesn't have a lot of high cost maintenance associated with it. Insurance is low. So I was just thinking, you know, I'd really like to have something else, but it just makes sense. And that's the sick part. Now, having said all that, looking at the specs here, the price on this one, pretty high for an XLE 4-cylinder, and that's because it has a lot of standalone options like those illuminated door sills, that sunroof, and the spoiler out back, not to mention packages. So you don't have to go all the way into the 30,000s to get the XLE pretty nicely equipped. That said, fuel economy, pretty impressive, 30 mpg average for the week. That's not bad for a near full-size sedan. Now, as we look at the stars here, the Camry doesn't do anything absolutely spectacular, but it doesn't do anything wrong either. So we're at 4 stars for the week. I'm Sam Hamar for Test Driven TV. I hope you enjoyed the ride. One more personal story. Long time ago, I used to sell Mazdas, car salesman at the dealership. And the most frustrating thing I had to deal with day in and day out, and probably still Mazda salesmen today have to deal with, is people coming in and they would drive the 626, now it would be the Mazda 6. And they drive it and they'd be happy, and then they'd say, okay, well, we have to go. And I say, well, where are you going? Don't you want to buy a car today? And they go, well, we want to go drive some other cars. Oh, well, what do you want to drive? We want to go drive the Toyota Camry. Well, that always used to put this sinking feeling in my gut, because I knew those people would never be back.